what's the most amount of money that you've ever lost? Maybe you lost $100 in a bet when your favorite sports team lost the game. Or maybe you lost $100,000 getting that now useless degree in animal communications. But it can't be that bad. At least you didn't lose more than the entire GDP of Panama or Luxembourg in about 2 years. That's exactly what happened to the man who lost the most money in human history. That man's name is Masayoshi-san. You might know him as the billionaire founder of Japanese telecommunications giant SoftBank, and while he may still have a hefty bank account, it used to be far heftier. The story goes something like this. Masayoshi-san graduated from UC Berkeley in California with a degree in economics and computer science, but he was destined for entrepreneurship. His first venture was importing knockoff arcade games and renting them to laundromats. Hardly anything that sounds like it would make you rich, but it gave Masayoshi-san his start. After going to school in the US and beginning his professional career there, he moved back to Tokyo, Japan, and founded SoftBank. Within a year of its founding, the company was developing PC programs and even publishing PC magazines. Masayoshi-san spent the next decade building up SoftBank into Japan's #1 satellite TV provider. SoftBank evolved into a massive conglomerate, eventually becoming a massive stock brokerage and a tech company. By 1995, Masayoshi-san took SoftBank public and became an instant billionaire. By 1999, SoftBank had become one of the largest tech companies in the world, right at the height of the global dot-com bubble. SoftBank took out large investments in E-Trade, Alibaba, and Nippon Credit Bank in Japan. These investments grew and grew and grew until they didn't. Masayoshi-san owned 42% of all of the equity in SoftBank, at its peak swelling his net worth to $76 billion in early 2000. Around March of that year, the Nasdaq Composite, the stock exchange where most of tech trades, hit a peak of 5,048. 2 months later, in May, it dropped to 3,300. In September of 2001, the Nasdaq dropped to 1,500. The dot-com bubble had popped. SoftBank was highly exposed to these markets. Their $400 million investment into E-Trade was now worth just $22 million. SoftBank's market cap dropped 98%, then sitting at $2.5 billion. So what happened then to Masayoshi-san net worth? It dropped from $76 billion to just $1.1 billion. He lost nearly $75 billion in about a year and a half. But hey, he was still a billionaire. That sum is the largest amount of money ever lost by an individual. Other people haven't even gotten close throughout history. Following Masayoshi-san, Japanese billionaire Yasumitsu Shigeta lost about $41 billion when a company he owned a significant portion of crashed in the dot-com boom too. Brazilian oil magnate Eike Batista lost about $35 billion, going from a net worth of $34.5 billion to having negative $1 billion in debt due to bad oil dealings. But back to Masayoshi-san. History has still been kind to him. SoftBank eventually grew back to the third largest internet company in Japan, largely thanks to its acquisition of Sprint. Today, Masayoshi-san is worth about $40 billion. He lives in a $50 million mansion in Tokyo that reportedly left Bill Gates speechless when he visited. He also owns a $117 million mansion in California. Oh, and a Japanese baseball team called the SoftBank Hawks. So you might say he's doing all right. As it turns out, losing the most money in human history isn't always as bad as it sounds.